Hi, and welcome to Intellectual Property Training, Module 7. We will speak about the methodology for the formulation and the development of intellectual property right strategies. It's important to identify business goals and objectives for the strategy, conduct an intellectual property audit, assess the competitive landscape, determine the intellectual property needs for your company, develop the intellectual property protection strategy, implement it and enforce it, educate and train the employees, collaborate and network is very important, and regularly review and update the strategy. It's important in the end and through all the process of the implementation of the intellectual property right strategy to measure and evaluate success and get the feedback. So, which are the steps for designing a good innovation policy? It's important to define the objectives, formulate a scenario, identify the stakeholders, design a decision-making framework, conduct policy design proposals and design sessions, evaluate them, interactive refinement, policy implementation and evaluation. And through all the process, it's important to keep documentation and have some analysis. For developing a strategic branding portfolio, we need to apply a practical approach. We need to define first the brand strategy, to conduct a brand audit, to do a segment and prioritization, to develop a brand architecture, create brand guidelines, align with business objectives, monitor and evolve continuously, considering other brand extensions, and integrate marketing and communication to the strategic branding portfolio, and protect and manage your intellectual property. In case of an infringement, we need to develop also a strategy. We need again to define the goals, assess the human resources for the specific case, assess the intellectual property resources and practices, study the competitive environment, develop an intellectual property management plan, and protect your assets. So some policies for intellectual property management, strategic decisions about the importance of protecting intellectual property assets and assessing innovations of others, and planning actions and budget accordingly. Carry out these plans accordingly to policies and practices regarding personnel, IP portfolio management, procurement, partnering, and policing intellectual property rights. Preserve, perfect, transfer, and enforce IP rights in a methodological way to maximize assets in conformity with organization's goals. Organization, company, research institute, university. The organization will respect the intellectual property rights for others. Take reasonable steps to learn about the rights of others and to make sure not to infringe to minimize losses. Inform the staff of their obligations towards trade secrets, control access to premises, confidential documents, and electronic files, include appropriate confidentiality provisions in employment agreements, consulting agreements, and partnering agreements. Put copyright notices on all publications, packing, and website pages, and to register significant works. Require work for hire and/or assignment agreements from your consultants and contractors. license rights as appropriate, for example, with click-through user agreements, maintain or drop applications depending on their value to the organization, and with significant projects, uh, there is the obtention of clearance opinions and license rights from others if necessary. Clear new products and services marks before putting them into use and to register significant marks and mark products and marketing material consistently and follow the rules when licensing others to use the marks when obtaining a license to use someone else's mark. Last but not least, some considerations for participation in funded projects using intellectual property. Research funding opportunities is important. Intellectual property ownership and management, licensing and technology transfer, collaboration and intellectual property sharing, intellectual property commercialization and impact, compliance with funding requirements. Thanks a lot. This is the end of the Intellectual Property Training Module 7.